Hey guys, how's it going? Super Pikachu here. Today, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to think of some recipes that I can cook with based off of the ingredients I have in my pantry and fridge. So, I am not an experienced chef or cook by any means, so this is probably going to be a little bit harder for me, but hopefully with the instructions and ingredients that AI gives me, maybe it can make a good meal. Who knows? Maybe it might be better than the ones that I make for myself. But yeah, anyways, let's do it.
Super Pikachu!
So before I actually make something, I should probably tell you guys what ingredients I gave to AI. So this includes ham, mayonnaise, cream cheese, non-processed cheese slices, Mr. Noodles, margarine, maple syrup, soy sauce, 4 eggs, salt, avocado and sesame oil, and honey. Alright, so the first meal that AI wants me to make is some ramen. So I'm gonna let the steps go by on screen right now. Seems like we'll be using eggs, noodle, and ham as the main components with a rather simple broth. I mean, it's understandable, we don't have a lot of supplies anyways. But anyways, let's go into making some food. Alright, so here are the pots and pans that I'll be using. This one is for the eggs, this one is for the noodles and the broth, and this one is for the ham. And of course over here we have the ingredients. We have the ham, we have the noodles, the eggs, the soy sauce, and the margarine. So let's get cooking. Alright, we're going to start with this pot. I'm going to start by setting the stovetop to a boil. Alright, now we're going to add some water. Alright, the water is now boiling. I'm going to turn the fan on and we are going to add our 2 eggs in for about 6 to 7 minutes. Let's do it. So, big first mistake. I accidentally cracked both of the eggs while I was putting them in the pot. So, as you can see, there's a bit of like egg whites floating around. Alright, so while the eggs are boiling, we are going to start boiling the water for the noodles. So, let's turn up the heat. Let's add some water. Now, on AI's part, they didn't specify how much water I should add, so I added about like a quarter of the pot. So now we're going to wait for that to boil. Alright, let's check in on the eggs, shall we? Alright, so there's a lot of boiling. I think this one looks... Oh, yikes. This one kind of exploded out here a little bit. I think they're good. They're floating now, so... From what I've heard, if the eggs are floating, that means they're ready. So I'm going to move them both over. Alright, and now the eggs in their wonderful little ice bath, it's time to put the noodles in. Alright, now that the water is aggressively boiling, we are going to put our noodles in. And now, we wait for them to spread out. So while I'm waiting for the water to boil, I just wanted to say that I was inspired to make this video because of a clip I saw from a cooking video of the Signmen and Nick DiGiovanni. Let it play.
Flashback.
Let's go! I wanted mine to do that!
End of flashback.
Now that the ramen seems to be working quite well, we're just going to start mixing them and dissolving them a little bit. Alright, and while that happened, I cut up 2 slices of ham to ham strips, and we are going to fry them in a bit. Alright, and while they're cooking, we are going to add 1 seasoning packet because I used 2 packs of ramen, a little bit of soy sauce, and what I believe to be a healthy amount of margarine, even though it's not healthy to start with. And while that was happening, I added some ham slices to the frying pan, and I also peeled 2 eggs. Alright, at this point the noodles are done. I'm just going to transfer them to a bowl, and we are going to start assembling. Alright, the stuff has been transferred. Let's put in our ham. And then I put my chopped eggs in, and honestly, this is the final result. We have some lightly crispy ham, we have some eggs, and then we have the broth and the noodles. So let's dig in and see how it tastes. Alright guys, moments of truth. Is this bite gonna taste good or not? I think the only good part of this was the ham. The noodles are a little bit too soggy, and I think they were overdone. And I feel like the egg was actually underdone. But to be fair, I did make sure that the inside was a little bit runny. Unfortunately, I think it's a little too runny. So, yeah. Alright, I have finished up my meal. Now it is time to rate it. I will be basing my rating off of 3 different categories. The first one will be presentation.
I'm good at presentation.
So basically how my end product looks. The second one is taste. Basically how it tastes. I mean, that was the whole point of the video. And the third one is experience, which includes the process in the creation of the meal and the aftermath. Alright, so the first category is presentation. Looking at it, it does look quite visually appealing. The white, the yellow, and the pink do play off of each other well, but of course, due to the lack of ingredients, that's really all there is to it. If I had seaweed or the pink and white swirly thing, it could have made the dish pop a little bit more. I also did dump in the ingredients and just foolishly placed the eggs in the ham, so that's why it kind of looks more like a soup than it does ramen. And let's not forget about the sorry excuse of an egg that I accidentally cracked into the pot. So this gets a 2 out of 5. And the second category will be taste. And if you didn't notice the strong disgust I had of this dish while I was tasting it, did I really paying attention to my video? Like, come on guys, y'all are hurting my feelings. The broth was so diluted, it felt like prison food, the eggs felt underdone, the noodles were soggy and overdone, and honestly, the only good part about this was the ham, and I will say though, the ham was great. That definitely made things a lot better. So this category gets a 1.5 out of 5. Lastly, we have the experience. I've never done something like this before, all by myself, relying on only AI software, so of course it was a little bit chaotic, but I also embraced it. I really enjoyed the process. Throughout my life, I really enjoyed baking and engaging in step-by-step activities, so this was no different. However, look at the dishes that I have to tackle. I mean, I could throw them in the dishwasher, but look at me. I'm Asian. Dishwashing isn't all that bad though, because you can't just listen to music while doing so. So this category gets a 2.5 out of 5. So overall, the ramen gets a failing grade of 6 out of 15. But hopefully, the next meal will be better. So let's go. Alright, it is a new day, and once again I asked AI to generate a recipe for me with the ingredients I listed, and it gave me a savory breakfast bagel. Now, I have made a few of these before, so hopefully the experience will be better, albeit a couple of small changes, but yeah, let's do it.
Alright, my next class is in an hour and a half, so I don't have a lot of time to make this, so let's make it quick. We have our egg, ham, cheese, bagel, cream cheese, and our avocado oil. Let's get to rolling. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prep the egg, so we are going to turn this to a medium, coat the pan. Now we're going to crack our egg. Oh. We actually have to crack it this time. And using our handy dandy little fork, we are going to mix it. And while that's happening, I'm going to almost drop my bagel to the ground, but I caught it miraculously, and we are going to slice it in half. Alright, and now it's time to toast this thing. Let's do it. Alright, the pan seems relatively ready. We're going to start by putting our egg in, and we are going to start by mixing it a little bit. Using a fork should be okay just to scramble the egg. Hopefully it doesn't damage the pan as much, but it should be okay. Alright, and as you can see, the eggs look pretty done. It didn't really take that long, and I just heard the bagels pop up, so let's put that on. Alright, so the bagel is done. Now it's time to put the cream cheese on. Alright, the cream cheese is done. Now it's time to put the eggs in. The eggs are kind of good. I will reorganize this a little bit later. Alright, now I know AI didn't tell me to do this, but I'm going to be putting in 2 pieces of ham because I'm going to be putting the cheese right in between, and hopefully that makes it melt. Alright, now that the pan is ready again, it's time to put the ham with the cheese in, and we're going to let it sit for a little bit and then flip it over. Alright, that is sounding really dang good right now. The cheese seems like it's melted entirely. I guess it's time to transfer it. And after flipping this bagel on top, that is it. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. This is the savory breakfast bagel. Except I'm having it for lunch. We got egg, we got ham with cheese squeezed in between, kind of like a smash patty, and then we got some beautifully toasted plain bagel. Alright, let's dig in. I cannot wait to eat this. Alright, and in contrast with my last meal, this actually looks pretty good, so it's time to eat. Hopefully this is good. Oh yeah, this is great. The bagel is just perfectly crispy. The ham, honestly you can't really feel the ham, but the ham is great. The cheese you can definitely feel. It's a great addition in between. And then the eggs are also very fluffy. I think I actually ended up making that really well. That's the first time that I've actually done scrambled eggs on a pan, so I'm actually quite surprised that that ended up really well. Oh, and I almost forgot about the cream cheese. The cream cheese is a great touch. You can't really feel much of it, but it gives that savory flavor. I mean, obviously all the other ingredients have a very savory flavor, but it's a good touch. It's a good addition. So yeah, I'm gonna finish eating this and I will rate it after. Alright, time to rate the food off of presentation, taste, and experience. The first one being presentation. It looks really good. Like looking back at it, the yellow, the red pinkish, like you can see some of the cheese just oozing out of the ham. It's really nice. And then the crispy bagel, it looks really, really good. So with that, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. Next up, we have taste.
The taste was good. I honestly thought the eggs were going to be a little bit too stiff or too firm, but it was actually quite fluffy. The ham and the cheese were great. The cream cheese provided like a little bit of a creamy texture, and then the bagel was just crunch. Now, I will say I did wish I had a little bit more stuff inside, because I feel like the bagel just kind of overpowered it. Maybe if I added maybe an extra egg or maybe some mayonnaise, it might have been good. So I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. The last one is experience. Now, looking at the dishes, honestly, really seems like there's not a lot to wash, which is great for me. That's going to get some bonus points. And honestly, making it didn't really feel like a hassle. It felt like everything was flowing in cohesion. Like, if I was doing one thing, the other thing would come right after. And then it's just like a continuous process until I'm done. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So if I'm correct, that leads us to a passing grade or an excelling grade of 12 out of 15. So I think we have one more thing to make. So let's do it. Alright, one more meal by AI before I give my final verdict. Today we are making a very special and quite interesting food. It's called a croquette. I have heard of this. I do know what this is. Seems like there's going to be a lot of ingredients. It definitely looks like it's going to be a hassle, which is why I'm making it for dinner. And I did ask AI, and they did say that the difficulty is going to be, for a first-timer, a 7 out of 10. So I think it's probably going to be on the same level as the ramen, but you never know. Let's do it.
Alright, and here are our ingredients. This is for the coating, the Mr. Noodles. We have a little bit of salt, avocado oil, mayonnaise, cream cheese, we have our egg, and of course we have our wonderful little slices of ham. Let's get cooking. Alright, so the first thing that I have to do is I have to break the noodles into tiny little fine pieces. So I don't really have a rolling pin to crush that, so I'm just going to throw it against the wall. Alright, I think my noodles should be somewhat crumbled enough. Let's go to the next step. Alright, here's the fun part. Now we get to combine things. So first we're going to start off with our ham. Next will be our egg. 2 tablespoons, or whatever this is, of cream cheese. 1 tablespoon of mayo. Alright, and after about 10 minutes of mixing and adding bread, it's thick, it's sticky, it kind of holds shape. I think we're good to mold, so let's do it. Alright, and I was able to make 4, moderately sized croquettes. Alright, the croquettes have been proofed. Now it's time to put them in the noodles.
Later.
Well, I mean, I guess they're kind of coated. In the meantime, I have heated up the pan, so now I'm going to put these croquettes in. Let's do it. Now, AI did say to look for some golden brown, and just to make sure that it looked okay, yeah, this is golden brown. I think this is good. Let's transfer this onto the plate, and let's give it a final review. And folks, there you have it, my third and final meal. 4 ham croquettes. Honestly, this looks a lot better than I had anticipated. I thought it was just going to look like slop, but this actually doesn't look too bad, and honestly, it feels good. It looks edible, so let's eat.
Alright, so this is my first time making something as complicated as croquettes, and a little bit more hands-on too. So hopefully this is good. So cheers. So it's not bad. It's not amazing either. It seems pretty average, I guess. It's definitely better than the ramen, but it's definitely not better than the breakfast bagel. I think AI definitely went a little ham on the ham. Giving me 3 slices is very generous, and honestly I feel like 2 would have been fine. The cream cheese, I honestly couldn't even feel it. The mayo I also can't feel. It's just overpowered by the ham, and then obviously the Mr. Noodles on the outside. It's okay. It provides a little bit of a crunchy feel, so it's not bad. And not to mention, you also can't really feel the bread. Like, it is a little bit there, but it's more of a neutral flavor. Like, there's not really much going on in here. It's just a little bland. So if there was a little bit of a dipping sauce, maybe like, I don't know, soy sauce or something to make it a little bit more liquidy, that might be a little bit better. Alright, and for the final time, let us rate our food. Once again, presentation, taste, and experience. So, presentation, looking back at it, it really doesn't look too bad. Like I said, it was better than I thought it was going to be. So I'm probably going to be giving this a 3 out of 5. Next up, we have taste, and honestly, it was much more edible than the ramen was, but obviously nowhere near the bagel. Yeah, I guess it was a little bland. Definitely the ham and the bread kind of overtook the dryness. There wasn't enough of the cream cheese and the mayo to go around, so I think I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 5. And then lastly was experience. Unfortunately today I was suffering a lot from allergies because I had an outdoor class. So honestly I was just really tired doing this. But honestly, looking at the dishes, it's not horrible. I guess I'll have to give this a 2.5 out of 5. just because I want to be a bit more fair. And with that, the final rating is set, but does this pass or does it fail? Well, looking at the ratings right now, right here, it passes, which is great. But does that mean I would rely on AI again in the future for cooking? Well, despite me being quite inexperienced, I probably don't really have a choice. I mean, I would say yes. Honestly, it was pretty helpful. Some of the tips were pretty helpful. A lot of the common sense stuff that I had, I can override it. I can override AI easily. So yeah, it's not bad. Obviously, when in doubt, my parents are great at cooking, so they can also be very resourceful as well. So yeah, I definitely will be using AI again in the future to help me cook or think of recipes to make. But yeah, it was fun. Great journey. Definitely a bit of a different video than most of the others, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace!